This video is about solving for missing sides and angles using the law of cosines. So the law of cosines can be used to solve for missing sides and angles of any type of triangle. So it does not need to be a right triangle. It can be an acute triangle or an obtuse triangle as well. The law of cosines is a squared equals b squared plus c squared minus 2bc times the cosine of a. Now, a, b, and c are interchangeable. What you need to really know about the law of cosines is that the side that is going to be isolated by itself on one side of the variable, the opposite angle is what's going to be used with cosine, and then the other two sides are going to fill in the b squared, c squared, and bc measures. The law of cosines can be used if we have a side angle side triangle, which means we know two sets of sides and the included angle, or if we know all three sets of sides. When you are doing the law of cosines, once you start with the law of cosines, you need to finish the problem using the law of cosines. You cannot switch between the law of cosines and the law of sines. Solve each problem, find all of the missing information, round sides to the nearest thousandth, and round angles to the nearest minute. So if we look at this triangle in number 1, we see that we know one angle and the two sides that make the angle the included angle. So what we're going to first do is find the missing side length. So the missing side is across from angle C, so we're going to call it little c. So we're going to have c squared equals the other two side lengths squared, so 34 squared plus 45 squared minus 2 times those side measures, 34 times 45, times the cosine of the angle, 32. So in order to solve for c, we would need to take the square root of both sides. So c would equal the square root of 34 squared plus 45 squared minus 2 times 34 times 45 cosine 32. Then we can go to our graphing calculator to evaluate. So in my graphing calculator, I want to click mode to make sure that I'm in degrees, which I am. So now I can enter in that whole equation. So we have the square root of 34 squared plus 45 squared minus 2 times 34 times 45 cosine of 32, and enter. So because this is representing a side measure, we can round to the nearest thousandth. So this is going to be 24.207. So our side length is 24.207. So now that we know the side length, we can find the missing two angles. So you can pick either angle to start with. So I'm going to look for angle A first. So I still set up the equation the same way to start. So angle A, the side opposite of it, is 45. So we're going to have 45 squared equals, and we're going to leave that by itself, the other two sides. So we would have 34 squared minus, or plus 24.207 squared minus 2 times 34 times 24.07 cosine of A. So this one's going to be a little more involved in order to get the cosine by itself, so we can do the inverse and get the angle. So what we're going to do first is we're going to subtract the other two side lengths that were squared. So we're going to have 45 squared minus 34 squared minus 24.207 squared equals negative 2 times 34 times 24.207 cosine of A. Now, these square numbers cannot be combined together. They're going to be left alone for now. And we're going to divide by everything that's in front of the cosine. So we have 45 squared minus 34 squared minus 24.207 squared divided by negative 2 times 34 times 24.207 equals cosine of A. Then to get the A by itself, we would need to do the inverse. So we're going to have the cosine inverse of 45 squared minus 34 squared minus 24.027 squared divided by negative 2 times 34 times 24.207 equals A. Now that we finally have A by itself, we can use our graphing calculator. A couple of things when we are using the graphing calculator, you want to make sure that you are going to put a parenthesis around the numerator and around the denominator when we go into the calculator. So in the calculator, I'm doing the cosine inverse, so second cosine. That parenthesis starts the cosine, so I need another parenthesis to start my numerator of the fraction. 45 squared minus 34 squared minus 24.07207 squared, close parenthesis, divided by, then I need to open parenthesis again for the numerator, for the denominator, so negative 2 times 34 times 24.0.207, close parenthesis for the number, close parenthesis for the denominator, close parenthesis for the numerator. Then we can hit enter. Remember that this is an angle, so we have to also hit second and the apps key to get to the angle menu. To go to degrees, minutes, seconds, we're rounding to the nearest minute, so we're going to have 99 degrees and 54 minutes. So angle A equals 99 degrees and 54 minutes. Now, we could do that again to find angle B, or we know two angles, so we can subtract from 180 to get angle B. So to find angle B, I'm going to do 180 minus 32 minus 99 degrees and 54 minutes. So in my calculator, 180 minus 99 angle to get the degrees, 54 angle to get the minutes, minus 32. And then I can convert that to degree, minutes, seconds. So for angle B, we get 48 degrees and 6 minutes. Now let's look at a second problem. So in number 2, the picture is not drawn for us. We are given triangle ABC. So we have triangle A, B, and C. We know that the side length of A, so across from angle A, is 13. B is 21, so the side across from angle B, and then C is 28, so the side across from C. So in this case, this triangle is a side, 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 where we know all of the sides, and we have to find the angles. So we can start with any angle. Usually if I don't know the angles, I'm just going to start in alphabetical order. So if I want to find angle A first, I need the side across from angle A, so 13 squared equals the other two sides, so 21 squared plus 28 squared minus 2 times 21 times 28 cosine of A. So remember, when you're finding your angle, it's a little more involved. So we're first going to subtract the sides over. 13 minus 21 squared minus 28 squared equals negative 2 times 21 times 28 cosine of A. Then we can divide. So 13 squared minus 21 squared minus 28 squared divided by negative 2 times 21 times 28 equals the cosine of angle A. And then we can do our cosine inverse. So the cosine inverse of 13 squared minus 21 squared minus 28 squared divided by negative 2 times 21 times 28 equals A. So now we're ready to use our calculator. So in our calculator, we are going to do the cosine inverse, parenthesis, 13 squared minus 28 squared minus 21 squared divided by, parenthesis, negative 2 times 28 times 21, close parenthesis a few times till we get to that really big one at the end and we know everything's been closed. We hit enter, and then we're going to convert that to degrees, minutes, and seconds. So we get 26 degrees and 7 minutes because the 32 rounds up. So angle A is 26 degrees and 7 minutes. Then we need to find the next angle. So if I go in alphabetical order, I'm going to find angle B. So for angle B, we know that the side by itself across from B is 21. So we're going to have 21 squared equals 28 squared plus 13 squared minus 2 times 28 times 13 cosine of angle B. So we're going to subtract our sides over. And then we're going to divide to get the cosine B by itself. So 21 squared minus 28 squared minus 13 squared over negative 2 times 28 times 13 equals cosine B. Then we need to do our inverse. So the cosine inverse of 21 squared minus 28 squared minus 13 squared over negative 2 times 28 times 13 equals angle B. So now we can turn to our calculator. Second cosine inverse, close parenthesis or open parenthesis, 21 squared minus 28 squared minus 13 squared, close parenthesis, divided by, open parenthesis, negative 2 times 28 times 13, close my parentheses. Oh, we forgot the division. There we go. Hit enter. Then I'm going to convert that to degrees, minutes, seconds. So we get 45 degrees and 18 minutes for angle B. Then to find angle C, we can subtract the two angles we know from 180. So 180 minus 26 degrees and 7 minutes minus 45 degrees and 18 minutes. 180 minus 26 degrees and 7 minutes minus 45 degrees and 18 minutes. Hit enter and then convert to degrees, minutes, seconds. So we get 108 degrees and 35 minutes. So 108 degrees and 35 minutes.